Lasky, Gutierrez, McMullen, and Kevin Blackstone. Say it, Kevin. Say it.
Yes, I can't believe it. They're going.
You feel like busting loose. I get it. Let's go. Ovechkin touched it. LeBron's tired, and the Warriors are questionable. Let's go around the horn. How much higher can the boys go, Kevin? I feel like busting loose. I feel like busting loose.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reale.
How dominating a performance from the team with the worst Game 7 record in league history over the team with the best Game 7 record in history. And now, finally, Ovechkin. We were talking about this last night on our show's group chat. Oh, you're not on the group chat, Israel, when we talk hockey? A three-time MVP, not making a final until now. Does he touch it? Yes, he touches it. Also, one more look at that. Bill Plaschke giving him the trophy there. Interesting. Very
Bill, he's like Zelig. You're like Zelig, Bill.
Kevin, what are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling great for Alexander Ovechkin because you know what? He is the greatest athlete in the history of professional sports here in Washington, D.C. And the only thing missing for him was the chance to win a championship by getting to the ultimate round. And that's where he is now. Remember, this guy arrived here from Russia not speaking basically a lick of English, and he has made himself a superstar in this town. You mentioned all the accolades, all the individual accolades. There's nothing bad you can say about this guy. The only unfortunate thing was he had one of those, you know, an albatross around his neck because people said, well, he's a great player, but he can't get his team past Pittsburgh. He's no Sidney Crosby, and he hasn't won a championship. Well, now he can erase all of that, and he doesn't really need to do that because he's just been a fantastic representative.
So to score the first goal a minute into the most important game of your career. Yeah. So you view this more as an Ovechkin story than you do a Capital story after all the struggles the team has had.
Absolutely, because he has been the face of this franchise for so very long. I mean, his face is on the front of the building downtown.
Jackie, from afar, can you answer that question? Is this more an Ovechkin story or a Capital story?
Oh, totally an Ovechkin story because we love tragic figures like Karl Malone and John Stockton and others who can never win. You know, I always think about Ted Williams here in Boston. So yes, it's about him. I'm sort of marinating on your statement, KB, though, that he's the greatest athlete ever to come out of Washington. I'm trying to think as we're on the show here going through it, who else it could be. Well, Wes Unseld comes to my mind only because they won a championship, and he's somebody I think about. So I think it's hard to be the greatest until you actually win, although it does feel to me like this is almost like when teams make it to the Final Four. It almost doesn't matter if they win now. It's getting there.
I was waiting for somebody to say that. Jackie,
I don't know if
you're
that's
the first
true.
one to go there. Defend your opinion here, and then we'll go on.
I'm not defending my opinion. It's a rhetorical question to me. I'm not saying
so you're
I
just
feel
asking
that way.
questions now. All right, Jackie
Well,
asked
I'm
a question.
I think
Bill,
it's a
you
fair
can answer
question
Jackie's question first. You're going to get some points. And you had Hopi. You had Hopi dominating this game, and you're getting points for that. Now go ahead.
Jackie, they have to win. I mean, come on. They got this far.
I mean, KB's saying they're the greatest athlete without winning, so I'm just asking.
No, you know, it's amazing to me. I think the story's all about the Capitals. I mean, they're going against Las Vegas, and yet the Capitals seem to be the Cinderella story. They seem to be the sweetheart story. They've never won the Stanley Cup.
Is that true now? Another opinion you have to defend.
No, they've never been to the Stanley Cup. The city hasn't won a championship since 1992. And again, Vegas just showed up. Vegas just showed up. These guys have been there, and then the way they did it in this postseason, down 0-2 to Columbus, win. Beat Pittsburgh on the road to win a Game 7 when they're 3-11 in Game 7s. Ovechkin is just symbolic of the entire team, of that entire city. I think that's the team you got to root for.
I will say, back-to-back shutouts. Again, you had Holtby. Back-to-back shutouts in Game 6 and Game 7.
60 straight saves.
Now, they have been to the final before, Plaschke, 1998.
No, but they haven't won it, I'm saying. They have never won it.
All right, Israel Gutierrez, there's a lot out there now to consider. If this is Ovechkin's story, if this is the Capitals story, is it good enough now as is, or do they need to win the championship, which coming out of my mouth
feels so left out and so betrayed, by the way, for not being involved in that group chat. But here's what I'd say. Like, I think if that game was in D.C., I think maybe visually we would have seen more, a little bit about the fans sort of rejoicing. We would have seen the team take. But this, to me, was about Ovechkin as well. I consider that, like, if he was an NFL quarterback at this level of quality and and still hadn't won a championship to this point, man, this would be a huge story. And not only did he finally get to this point, but he had been 3-7 in Game 7. That's a lot of misery. He had gotten through the Penguins to get to this point. He had gotten to a situation, or they had gotten to a situation where they were up 2-0, then down 3-2, back-to-back elimination games, and now they're going into this sort of storybook final here with the Knights, and it still feels like Ovechkin is the better story, the more deserving champion potentially here. So yeah, I think it's more about him.
Jackie, one last chance after the horn.
Okay, you know who I thought of? I thought of Jerry West.
Yeah.
A lifetime of misery. Almost there. The only thing that was missing was the balloons up in the ceiling that never got a chance to come down.
Why do you got to bring that up, Jackie? Why do you
because I'm talking about Jerry West.
The two
but I will
of
say
you.
this.
Just take a mute. Okay, Stockton, Malone, we mentioned, Charles Barkley, Dan Marino, but I don't think any of those I just mentioned are three-time MVPs, which is what Ovechkin is.
And
Barry Bonds, Ted Williams.
So there you go. It's
that's
a very
the next
apt
level.
thing then.
Yeah, well,
Clayton
that's
Kershaw,
the next
3
level.
Cy Youngs, 1 MVP.
It's not. It shouldn't be putting us in the red.
Yeah, Sammy Ball, maybe Blackstone for Washington. I mean, it's a long
but
time
I don't.
ago.
I mean, nobody. We don't
Big
remember
Train,
Sammy
Big
Ball.
Train, Walter
Big Train. Oh
Johnson,
yeah,
that's
that's
a long time
1924. We don't remember 1924. Oh my goodness.
We move on. Celtics 96, Cavs 83. These are the rules, NBA people. When Steph Curry plays bad, he's hurt. When LeBron James plays bad, he's got no support. He's overworked.
Yep.
Home road split in this series is devastating. LeBron says he's not tired. Tyronn Lue said he looked tired. Israel, is this about LeBron's fatigue, or is that just an excuse?
It's just an excuse. Listen, of course he can be fatigued. Of course he probably is fatigued. I mean, he spent a lot of this year literally standing still watching his teammates go to work because he knew he needed that rest. And given all these minutes he's playing in these playoffs more than anybody else, of course he could look fatigued. But even with that level of fatigue yesterday, if his teammates had given him any sort of support, then we'd say, okay, he can still do this. I mean, if you look at that point total by Boston, it's their second lowest home point total of these playoffs. So it was at least a good enough defensive performance, for whatever reason, that they could have won that game. But it was offense that wasn't there, and LeBron did his part. Everybody else didn't.
Jackie McMullen?
What, are you all worn out from that, from hitting that? Is that what it is, man? Were you feeling some cramps coming on? What's going on there? Okay, you're feeling a little fatigued too. Listen, I was at the game. I was in the locker room afterwards. I talked to his coach. I talked to his players. He was tired. It's okay to be fatigued. It doesn't mean you let your team down. There's no reason why anyone should be blaming LeBron James because they lost that game. They're not even in this position without LeBron James. But go back to the previous game, the amount of energy he had to put out, not just on the offensive end, because everybody forgets what he had to do on the defensive end, which was nothing short of extraordinary. There were times, remember, we made a big deal about what would the Celtics do, the switch onto Terry Rozier. That matchup never happened because they decided to hedge and show and make Rozier go run back to the other player. The way you beat that, if you're LeBron, is make the extra pass to the guy and have him beat that way. For some reason, he didn't do it. A sharper, more aggressive LeBron James would have attacked that matchup. Again, no criticism of LeBron, but you got to call a spade a spade. He was tired. Sorry, guys.
LeBron is tired. It sounds like it's a Gay Talese story on Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra has a cold. Go ahead, Bill Plaschke. Is this just a red herring to cover up something else, or
no,
is fatigue
it's real? He's 33 years old, and not only is he's played the third most games of his career at this point, he's also played harder than he's ever had to play in his career. He outscored the rest of the Cavs starting lineup last night for the 5th time this postseason. He's outscored the rest of the starting lineup. That's a career high for him, the most he's ever had to dominate, the most he's ever had to carry a team. You just watched him. You look at him. He looked tired. I've seen this in Kobe's last 2 or 3 years. He's exhausted. His legs are out from underneath him, and I don't know how they get through this.
Kevin Blackstone?
You know, I suspect maybe he is a little bit winded, but we always talk about this with LeBron. Well, just the other week, they talked about the fact that, he spends over $1 million a year to keep himself in shape with the breathing chambers he has in his house and all of that. Last year, he had an off game during the finals, and the first question to him was, "Are you tired?" He said, "No, I'm not tired. I'm averaging a triple-double in the finals." So these questions always come up to try and explain some reason why LeBron isn't LeBron, why he didn't score 40 points again and have yet, another huge triple-double. A little winded, yes, but did it have a big impact on this game? I don't think so.
Jackie, you want to add something?
Yeah, I really have to disagree with you, Kevin, because in the fourth quarter, they wanted LeBron to go back in, and he wasn't ready, and therefore he and Kevin Love were out of the game together, something Ty Lue swore he did not want to happen. There are facts for this team. That does not mean he won't come back in Game 6 and be unbelievable. I think he will, but he was tired in this game.
I'll say the game was already lost at that point, though, wasn't it, Jackie, when Love and LeBron were out of it?
It was, but that's the point is, when does LeBron James ever say he can't come back in?
Let me ask you this. With a series like this, where the home-road split has been bananas, anything you see from the Celtics last night that makes you think this time maybe he can carry it over on the road, or no?
No, I don't expect him to win the next game.
I did. I saw something.
Oh, what do you got, Flashkey?
Tremendous defense. I think they were from the first teams to ever, in fact, in memory, to win a game by double digits by shooting less than 35% or less. I think their defense, that carries. That carries.
Okay. All right. They had tremendous defense in games 1 and game 2, and it didn't carry into 3 and 4.
Well, I think it will.
We'll move on. Tonight, Golden State and Houston. Iguodala, Klay Thompson, not 100%. Mix that in with an incredible choke job in Game 4. And on the road back in Houston. And how would you describe the position the Warriors are in tonight, Israel?
Listen, I think they're under a lot of pressure. I think if you look at sort of just the small picture here, that game in Golden State, that's not a 12-point fourth quarter is not a type of game that you should lose at home, especially. It's not the type of performance you should have. Kevin Durant's probably sort of been replaying that last play over and over in his head on why he didn't just pull up and take a shot over P.J. Tucker. They'd be so much more comfortable, obviously, 3-1 here. But even in the bigger picture, when you look at the gravity of this series here, they're supposed to win this series and win the championship. They are the dynasty in progress, if you will. If they go 2 out of 3 years, one after winning 73 games, and then this one after they were supposed to run through these playoffs, 2 out of those 3 years without having a title, they're going to have this reputation.
So you're saying the pressure's on Golden State tonight, and who specifically is it on, Kevin Blackstone?
Well, it's specifically on the coach, Steve Kerr. We questioned him at the end of the game in terms of whether or not he could get that timeout called or get one of his teammates, one of his players to get that timeout called. Kevin Durant has made less than 10 field goals in the last 2 games. You expect more from him. Why wasn't he able to make more shots? Was he not able to get open? Klay Thompson, you can say that maybe he's not healthy, but you know what? Chris Paul's not healthy either, and he's starting to dominate at that position. So I think a lot of it's on Steve Kerr to make some adjustments.
Jackie, do you agree that the pressure is all on Golden State?
I do. I absolutely do. Do you know that they had zero assists in the final 10.5 minutes of that game? This is a team that was the best team in the league at passing the ball. And do you also realize that Houston's assist rate is higher than Golden State's, not just in that game, but this is entire series? Something has happened that I never thought was possible. Houston has turned Golden State into an ISO team. And I'm telling you, that's bad news for Golden State. You don't want to fall into that trap. So Durant, more than anyone, has got to get the ball moving, take him in the post.
Huge pressure on Golden State. Golden State knows that Houston can win in crunch time. Houston can win in Oracle. Golden State, this is a must-win for Golden State.
The one thing the Rockets need above all others to win tonight, Israel?
Defense.
Blackstone?
100 points.
McMullen?
Defense, I'm with Izzy. I'm always with Izzy.
Flashkey?
P.J. Tucker.
Taking a break right here. Buy or sell on the other side.
Could have just gone with Tucker there.
Around the Horn is brought to you by Sony PlayStation's Detroit Become Human. Available May 25th. Rated M for mature.
It's out of bounds.
We're going to consider the Sterling Brown video now. As he wrote, a simple parking ticket turned into an attempt at police intimidation, followed by the unlawful use of physical force, including being handcuffed and tased and then unlawfully booked. The Milwaukee Bucks statement minced no words about injustice and defended their player, calling it all shameful and inexcusable, and then explicitly told the Milwaukee Police Department to have higher standards and be more accountable. Many are considering that statement from a team and comparing it to the statement the NFL teams made at the same time in voting for the anti-protest policy. Kevin Blackstone, how do you take it all in?
Well, there is a connection here, Tony, and the connection is that the protests in the NFL are not the problem. The problem is what produces the protest in the NFL, and what produces the protest in the NFL is exactly what happened to Sterling Brown. It is the unfair treatment, the over-officious treatment of police against unarmed, non-threatening black men in this country. That's why Colin Kaepernick went to a knee. It was to protest police lethality against unarmed black men in this country that goes unchecked. That's the problem, not protesting with the anthem as a backdrop.
Jackie McMullen?
Very eloquently put, Kevin, and I wish the NFL could hear you say it yet again, because this new anthem policy that we were told was unanimous, but now we find out maybe never went to an actual full vote. We know that some owners abstained. We know that Chris Johnson of the Jets has said he'll pay his players fines, suggesting that he supports them still kneeling or doing whatever kind of protest they would like. So it's very confusing to me. I wish that they were looking at this issue the way you did, Kevin, but it seems to me they're looking at it in terms of we lost advertisers, we lost some fans, and we have a president mad at us, so we have to do something. What did they do that was unanimous? Very confusing to me. I'm not clear on it.
And specifically on Sterling Brown, what did you hear from the Milwaukee Bucks, Jackie?
I love what I heard from the Milwaukee Bucks, and I love the way that the NBA has backed up him, Sterling Brown, and the Milwaukee Bucks. This is what we need leagues to do. This is what we need teams to do to support their players.
Bill Plaschke?
Yeah, this is such a horrible video, just horrifying to watch it. No wonder in the last 3 years, taxpayers in Milwaukee have paid $17.5 million in wrongful police action settlements. This was just awful to see this. But I'm sure the NFL, this is not to say they don't see it the same way. Their fans do not see it. The fans, when they see the protests, the fans see they're protesting the military. They see them protesting the flag. They don't understand that this is the protest the players are doing. So the NFL is responding to those fans. It's a business decision. And the NBA, frankly, the NBA, Sterling Brown plays in the NBA. The NBA has the same philosophy. I didn't see any protest yesterday at the NBA game. The NBA has the same rules that the NFL has. I'm saying these two things are mutually exclusive. The fans don't understand. The fans say, fans can certainly agree with the horror of this Sterling Brown video and still say, no, we want you to stand for the flag. That's what a majority of fans in this country are saying.
Israel Gutierrez?
It didn't matter if Sterling Brown was an NBA player or not. It just obviously, we're becoming numb to even these types of videos. We've seen so many of them, which is yet another reason why the NFL should be embarrassed for what they're doing, which again is not really actually addressing the problem. Here you have them coming up with this policy that they think is going to fix everything and are just going to sweep things under the rug. Meanwhile, if you have players staying in the locker room, you think that's just going to be a non-story. You think people are just going to say, oh, okay, they were doing their own thing. We even had the president talking about people shouldn't be in this country if they aren't out there proudly standing up for the flag. So of course it's going to continue to be an issue. The NFL continues to bungle this, and frankly, this is just going to end up making it worse.
Bill, you said yesterday you thought the policy was a compromise and that you have the right to protest and your employer or owners in this case,
right.
The league has the right to set the rules for that protest. You brought up something interesting here. You talked about the fan base. I don't want to be semantic here. It's part of the fan base, right? Not every. I mean, we can agree it's part of the fan base. They're catering to part of the fan base.
All the studies have shown.
And then the other thing you brought up is similar to what Steve Kerr was saying today, and Kerr jumped all in as he's been doing for years with this. But it was about his league, the NBA, versus the NFL, and he thinks the NFL is making a mistake here. But as you said, the NBA has a similar policy. Kevin, you want to address that?
Well, I mean, we've made the NBA out to be some paragon of progressiveness. And it's not necessarily so. They do have that rule in place. They did come down on the Minnesota Lynx when those women decided to protest post-game, and it wasn't until public pressure came to bear that they changed their policy on that. And some of the things that have happened in the NBA, quite frankly, were very easy to handle. So I think the NBA has some ironing out to do with some issues, too.
Thanks for your thoughts on the matter. Bill Plaschke, Israel Gutierrez. Going to get a lightning bolt right here. We're going to move on to Showdown. Kevin Blackistone, Jackie McMullen next. McMullen Showdown, good luck. All NBA first team, LeBron, KD, Harden, AD, Lillard. Westbrook made the second team. Kyrie, Chris Paul, not on any of the three. That's the vote. You voted, Jackie McMullen.
I did.
Grade how you voted.
So you know what? I have a little remorse for the way I voted. I did not vote Chris Paul, All-NBA, and he should have been on my third team. And maybe it's because I'm reminded again as I watch these playoffs what a great two-way player he was. So buyer's remorse on my part.
Yeah, and that's a good admission there because you know what? Because Kyrie Irving didn't make it. People are concerned about that. But you know what? He's hurt. And Chris Paul is playing hurt right now. Obviously not as severe an injury as
the regular
Kyrie,
season. Kyrie missed games. So did Steph Curry. So did Jimmy Butler.
A lot of guys missed games. So
it
it
was
was a hard
Chris Paul
vote this year because
as part of it. I'll give you a point for the voters' remorse you have there,
the
Jackie
club if you're in the
McMullen.
tub.
We'll move on. Michael Scotto, The Athletic, reporting the Orlando Magic have expressed interest in Tom Izzo, trying to sway him to leave Michigan State and coach Magicians. Make sense, David?
Yeah, it makes sense. He's trying to get out of town before the posse gets there. I mean, Michigan State obviously in a lot of trouble. Tom Izzo's name has been right in the middle of all of this. And if you're going to get Tom Izzo, this is the time that you get him.
Yeah, it makes sense because I do think now with the whole Brad Stevens thing, it's been proven that college coaches do it. But if I'm going after a college coach, I'm going all in with Mike Krzyzewski, and I'm going to throw a pile of money at him and hope maybe I can get him to blink.
You think Krzyzewski could leave? Do you think Izzo could leave?
I don't know that they could. But if I'm going to go for a college coach, I'm going for the gusto. I'm going to
go for FaceTime. I'm going with gusto. Jackie Mack, take it.
So I've been having a few problems with my neck, some herniated discs. The only reason I share that with you is I'm at the Celtics-Cavs game last night, and I started to have that nerve pain flaring up. And I thought, how am I going to sit through the game in these really uncomfortable seats? Well, my friend Amy Latimer, who runs the Garden, God bless her, she actually got a couch into a small room so I could lie on the couch and watch the game. But I was not by myself. I sat with Hall of Famer Tommy Heinsohn, who ate a bowl of fruit and entertained me endlessly with the knowledge he has.
That's great.
As Marcus Smart's put up 3, no, yes! I mean, I learned a lot, Tommy. Thanks.
You got 211 Tommy points, Jackie. We'll see you tomorrow.